So, you know that stuff you sent over about the Sublime?
Yeah.
Well, it's been kind of rattling around in my brain.
Right.
It really gets you thinking about why certain writing just hits differently.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're not just talking about good writing or even persuasive writing necessarily, but the stuff that truly moves you.
Right.
The stuff that stays with you long after you've finished it.
Yeah, that sticks with you.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Exactly. And to guide us on this exploration, we're going way back, like way back,
Okay.
to the 1st century A.D., to a figure known as Longinus, or sometimes Pseudo-Longinus,
Right, I've heard of him.
and his work on the Sublime.
Hmm.
And it's amazing how relevant his ideas still are today
Right.
about powerful writing.
I know, it's like you read it and you're like, wait, this was written centuries ago.
Oh, no.
But it feels so fresh.
It feels like it could have been written yesterday.
Exactly.
So our aim today is to unpack Longinus' thinking. What did he actually mean by the Sublime? What are the elements that contribute to it?
Right.
And how can we see these elements in both ancient and modern literature?
And in our own writing, too.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. We want to give you a new lens to see what makes writing truly powerful.
I like that, a new lens. So, all right, Sublime.
Yeah.
We use this word, but what did Longinus actually mean by it?
Yeah.
What sets it apart from just, really good persuasive writing?
Right. So for Longinus, sublimity, it's this extraordinary quality in writing
Okay.
that goes beyond the ordinary. It's not just about convincing your audience
Right.
or even giving them pleasure. It's about creating this sense of awe, wonder, and deep emotional response
Okay.
that almost lifts the reader out of themselves.
I like that. Lifts you out of yourself.
Right, it's transporting.
Yeah.
And he felt that, sublime writing, it leaves a lasting impact,
Hmm.
both intellectually and emotionally.
It's like an experience.
Yeah, more like ecstasy than just, agreeing with the author.
Right. You really feel it.
You feel it in your soul.
So how do we get there? What are the ingredients? What did he identify?
So he outlines 5 main sources of sublimity.
5. Okay. Like the pillars of sublime writing.
Exactly, you can think of them like that. And the first one is grandeur of thought.
Grandeur of thought. That sounds like it's got to be the foundation.
It really is.
So what does that even mean? What does Longinus mean by grandeur of thought?
So he believed that sublime writing, it begins with noble and elevated ideas.
Okay.
Ideas that come from, and this is a quote, a great soul.
A great soul.
Yeah, and he went so far as to say that people with, insignificant or mean ideas,
Right.
they just can't produce sublime writing.
It comes from within.
He saw it as like an essential quality of the writer.
Interesting. So it's not just about how you structure a sentence.
Right, it's deeper than that.
It's about the ideas
It
themselves.
starts with the ideas.
Wow. So how do you cultivate a great soul? Did he have tips on that?
He did. He suggested a few things.
Okay.
One was immersing yourself in the works of great thinkers from the past.
Okay.
People like Homer, Plato, Demosthenes.
The classics.
Exactly. But not to copy them,
Right.
to be inspired by them.
To catch their spirit.
Exactly. Catch fire from their spirit.
I love that.
He also talked about cultivating an elevation of the soul,
Okay.
which is like freeing your mind from petty concerns
Yeah.
and focusing on higher ideals.
Right. Big picture stuff.
Exactly. And he even connected this to morality and integrity,
Oh, wow.
suggesting that virtues like courage and wisdom, they're actually connected to the ability to think big.
Wow. So it's like your inner world really affects your writing.
Yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it,
Yeah.
about how a writer's worldview shapes their work.
It really does. It's fascinating. Okay, so that's grandeur of thought.
That's the first one.
What's next?
The second is strong emotions,
Strong emotion.
or vehement passion, as he also called it.
Okay.
And he believed that powerful, genuine, inspired emotions,
Mm-hmm.
they're what give writing life.
It's like the fuel.
It's the fuel. It's the heart. It makes it impactful.
It makes it real.
And similar to the first one, he saw this as like an innate quality.
Something you have or you don't.
Kind of, yeah.
So it's not enough to have just the big ideas.
Right.
You have to feel them and you have to be able to convey them.
Exactly.
It's not just a head game.
No, it's heart and head.
Yeah.
And that raw emotional energy, that's what resonates with the reader.
It's what makes it visceral.
Yeah, it's visceral. It goes beyond just understanding the words.
You feel it in your gut.
You feel it. It's like the difference between, knowing something
Right.
and feeling it.
Absolutely. So we have grand thoughts, strong emotions.
The foundation.
Where do we go from there?
All right, so the third source, this is where craft comes in.
Okay, interesting.
It's the appropriate use of figures of thought in speech.
So this is how you actually say it.
Yes, exactly. It's about using language effectively.
Right.
Longinus recognized the power of rhetorical devices.
Like metaphors and similes and things.
Exactly. Metaphors, similes, amplification, all those tools,
Your toolbox.
they can intensify both the intellectual and the emotional impact.
So you have the raw material, but now you're shaping it.
Precisely. You're giving it form.
With these tools.
With these tools. And this is where skill comes in.
Okay.
Because the first two, they might be more about who the writer is.
Right, that inner world.
But this one, this is about practice.
This is a learnable skill.
This is a learnable skill. It's about honing your craft.
Okay.
Choosing the right tool for the right moment.
So it's like you can have the most profound idea,
Right.
but if you can't articulate it,
It falls flat.
it's lost.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next? What's the fourth source?
The fourth is noble diction.
Noble diction. Sounds fancy.
It does a little
Yeah.
bit, but it basically means choosing elevated and dignified language.
Okay.
Language that matches the grandeur of your ideas.
Okay, so it's not just about using big words.
No, it's about using the right words.
Words that resonate.
Words that resonate, that have weight and beauty,
I see.
but there's a balance.
Right, you don't want to be too flowery.
Right, Longinus was aware of that.
Yeah.
He said that this elevated language, it has to be organic.
It has to fit.
It has to fit the subject. It has to harmonize with the thoughts and emotions.
Right, it can't be forced.
Exactly. It has to flow. And he gave some examples.
Okay.
Vivid metaphors and similes.
Right.
He pointed to Homer, Homer's powerful imagery.
Homer, the OG.
The OG, yeah. And he also mentioned Sappho's Ode to Jealousy,
Oh, yeah.
with its evocative language.
Powerful stuff.
He pointed to phrases like subtle fire, cold sweat.
Right, you feel that.
You feel that.
You feel it in those words.
It's not just about using complex vocabulary. It's about the impact.
the feeling.
The feeling, yeah. And he even quotes Plato, who says that grand words naturally accompany great thoughts.
They go together.
They go together. And he loved Homer's language in the Iliad and the Odyssey
Of course he did.
because it evokes this sense of majesty and grandeur.
Which is what those stories are all about.
Exactly. It fits.
Yeah.
And that's the key. It has to fit.
They'll connected.
Noble diction. It's not just a stylistic choice.
Right.
It's part of creating that sublime experience.
That's a key ingredient.
It shows the writer's mastery of language.
It makes you think about how, even the sound of the words. Yes. The rhythm of the words.
The rhythm, the cadence.
Affects the impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some writers just have a way with words where every sentence,
You savor it.
you savor it. Yeah. Okay, so we've covered 4 sources.
4 down, 1 to go.
4 down, 1 to go.
Right.
Grand thoughts, strong emotions,
Right.
skillful use of rhetorical figures, and noble diction.
What's the 5th one? What's the last piece of the puzzle?
The 5th and final source is dignified composition,
Dignified composition.
sometimes called harmonious arrangement.
Okay.
And this refers to how the writer organizes their words,
Okay.
their phrases, their ideas,
Structure.
structure, yeah,
Yeah.
to achieve clarity, rhythm, and a sense of harmony.
It's how it all comes together.
Exactly. It's like the architecture of the piece.
So it's not enough to just have all the right elements.
Right.
You have to arrange them in the right way.
You have to arrange them in a way that makes sense.
That flows.
That flows, that has impact.
So it's like, even if you have all these amazing ingredients,
Yeah.
if you just throw them in a bowl,
It's not going to be a good meal.
it's going to be a mess.
It's going to be a mess. You need that chef's touch.
to make it all work together.
Longinus understood that.
Makes sense.
A well-structured piece where everything is in balance.
Right.
It has a far greater impact than just a bunch of brilliant but disconnected parts.
It's like a symphony.
It is.
Yeah.
Everything working together.
You're getting this overall effect.
Right. And think about music. Even beautiful notes can sound jarring.
If they're not in the right order.
If they're not in the right order, if they clash.
Yeah, you need that harmony.
So it's about the whole experience of reading.
The journey.
The journey, the flow.
So I'm sure Longinus didn't think that if you just hit these 5 points,
Oh, no.
you automatically have sublimity.
No, there are pitfalls.
What are some of the things to avoid?
He identified a few faults that can really hinder sublimity.
Okay.
One is turgidity,
Rigidity.
which is when a writer tries too hard to be grand or elevated.
Okay.
And it ends up sounding bombastic,
Like over the top.
over the top, artificial, lacking depth.
Right. Like they're trying too hard.
Exactly. Then there's puerility,
Puerility.
which is writing that deals with trivial or shallow ideas.
Like, not enough substance.
Not enough substance, no matter how well written it is.
Just fluff?
Just fluff, yeah. And finally, frigidity,
Frigidity.
which is this coldness, this lack of sensitivity in the writing.
So it's like, you're not connecting.
No emotional connection.
No heart.
No heart,
You
yeah.
know, it's like too much, not enough, or just not the right feeling.
It's about finding that balance,
Yeah, it's sweet spot.
avoiding those extremes.
So you mentioned earlier that some of these sources might be more innate.
Right.
Like grandeur of thought and strong emotions, while others are more about skill,
Exactly.
like rhetorical techniques.
Right.
Can you talk a bit more about that distinction?
Sure. Longinus seemed to think that the ability to have great thoughts
Right.
and deep emotions, it comes from within.
It's part of who you are.
Yeah, he called it greatness of soul.
That great soul again.
But he also believed that using rhetorical figures skillfully,
All right.
cultivating noble diction, mastering composition,
Those are skills.
those are skills you can learn.
Okay.
You can practice them and get better.
So it's nature and nurture.
It's a bit of both. You need the raw material,
The spark.
the spark, but
Right.
you also need the tools to shape it,
To craft it.
to make it into something sublime.
This is all so interesting, but it was written so long ago.
I know.
Does it still apply today?
Absolutely. I think Longinus's framework is incredibly enduring.
Okay, good.
When we look at modern literature, we can see these principles at work.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure. So, for grandeur of thought, think about Toni Morrison.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Her novels grapple with huge themes.
Race, history, memory.
Exactly. And she does it in a way that expands our understanding.
You come away changed.
And Kazuo Ishiguro,
Another great one.
he explores complex ethical issues, the nuances of human experience.
His books really stay with you.
They have that lasting intellectual impact.
What about strong emotions? Who are some modern writers who exemplify that?
Well, for strong emotions, think about Khaled Hosseini.
Oh, yeah. His books are so moving.
His stories are full of love, loss, betrayal,
Raw emotion.
raw emotions, and he conveys them so powerfully.
You can't help but be affected.
What about the use of rhetorical figures in modern literature?
Where do we see that?
We see that in Carmen Maria Machado's work.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She uses surreal and metaphorical elements.
To tackle difficult topics.
Yes, complex emotional and social issues.
It's like she's creating a whole new language.
And Colson Whitehead.
Another master.
His writing is full of rich, layered metaphors.
Which adds so much depth to his stories.
Exactly. It's not just about telling a story, it's about using language to create meaning,
To make you think.
to make you think, to make you feel.
Okay, what about noble diction? Who comes to mind there?
For noble diction, think about Cormac McCarthy.
Oh, yeah, he's a wordsmith.
His language is often sparse, but incredibly evocative.
Every word counts.
Every word counts.
Yeah.
It creates this atmosphere of gravity and weight.
You can feel the weight of his words.
And Marilyn Robinson.
Oh, her prose is so beautiful.
It's precise, carefully crafted.
It's like poetry.
Lyrical, yes. Each word contributes to the beauty of the whole.
And lastly, harmonious composition. How does that manifest in modern literature?
Well, we see that in Jennifer Egan's A Visit from the Goon Squad.
Oh, that's a great book.
It's so innovative in its structure,
The way she weaves those stories together.
reflecting the fragmented nature of time and memory.
It's brilliant.
And David Mitchell.
Another master of structure.
His novels, like Cloud Atlas, they have these multiple narratives,
All intertwined.
intertwined, echoing each other across time.
It's like a puzzle box.
It creates this profound sense of connection.
It's amazing to see how these ancient ideas still resonate today.
It's timeless.
You even mentioned sublimity in genre fiction.
Oh, right.
Like sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah, because it's not always about character-driven stories
Right.
or deep philosophical debates.
So how does sublimity manifest in those genres?
In genres like sci-fi and fantasy, it often comes through the world building.
The creation of whole new worlds?
Exactly. Think about N.K. Jemisin's The Fifth Season.
Oh, her world building is incredible.
It's so detailed, so imaginative.
It's like you're transported to another planet.
Or Tolkien.
Tolkien, the master.
The epic scope of his world, the intricate
You
histories.
get lost in those worlds
It's about creating a sense of wonder and awe.
through the sheer scale of the imagination.
Exactly, which aligns perfectly with Longinus's idea of sublimity,
It's about going beyond our everyday experience.
to something truly extraordinary.
You also mentioned earlier a connection between sublimity and ethics
Oh, right.
in Longinus's thinking.
Yeah, he seemed to believe that great literature, it often comes from a noble mind.
The writer's character matters.
It does, yeah.
So it's not just about being technically skilled.
No.
It's about having something worthwhile to say.
And he thought that great writing, it could actually elevate the reader.
Make them better people.
In a way, yes. By exposing them to these lofty ideas.
And profound emotions.
It's about moral and intellectual growth.
That's a powerful idea.
It is. It suggests that sublimity isn't just an aesthetic goal.
It's deeper than that.
It's connected to something fundamental about being human.
Our capacity for growth and understanding.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into Longinus's On the Sublime.
It's such a rich text.
I feel like we've just scratched the
But
surface.
there's so much more to explore.
But let's recap the key takeaways. We've explored the 5 sources of sublimity.
Right.
Grandeur of thought, strong emotions, skillful use of figures of thought and speech, noble diction, and dignified composition.
Those are the pillars.
And we've seen how they work together to create writing that transcends the ordinary.
Writing that moves us, that stays with us.
Writing that is sublime.
Exactly. And it's clear that sublimity, it's not just about technique.
Right.
It comes from the depth of the writer's thoughts and feelings.
It's about having something to say.
And saying it with power and beauty.
I think this is so relevant for anyone who's interested in, expanding their knowledge.
Absolutely.
Appreciating insightful content.
Because it gives you a framework for understanding.
What makes communication powerful?
Not just in literature.
But in all its forms.
Speeches, conversations, even everyday interactions.
It's about recognizing those moments of sublimity.
And understanding why they resonate so deeply.
So as you continue to explore the world of writing and communication, here's a final thought for you to consider.
Okay.
Now that you've learned about Longinus's ideas about the sublime,
Right.
what examples come to your mind
Good question.
of truly sublime communication? And it could be anything.
Anything at all.
Literature, speeches, maybe even moments in everyday conversation
Interesting.
that have had a profound impact on you.
Okay.
And think about those examples.
Right.
And what made them so impactful.
Which elements were at play?
Exactly. It's a fascinating exercise
It is.
to see how these ancient ideas still shape our understanding of what makes communication truly great.
I love that. A challenge for our listeners.
Until next time.
See you then.